everyone they start us together. After Epcot for and around the world, the vendors were dancing in the streets with us. The photographers had followed from the course into the park to capture those moments, struggling yet persisting just a few hours earlier. This was an opportunity to celebrate. I didn't accomplish something. We did something. Professional learning spaces, we don't take the time to pause. And most professions require continued learning in forms, workshops. They miss the magic. And while next week's team huddle may not have fireworks or costumes, there is an opportunity to create experiences that are personalized, purposeful, and paradigm shifting. As we move our work from infinity to beyond, we need to remember of professional growth and that it's not just about checkboxes, but instead of wonder. Time to transform, sit and get professional.
Okay, old men, maybe he was 30. Old men in general are disgusting. Also, he was extra disgusting. My husband and I moved, walk. Home from the house, just got my driver's license and red light. There's a guy in my window. He unzips, points his penis at me. I feel trapped. I didn't even realize. Now I'm 23. I walk 2 miles to work, 2 miles back. I am harassed, no joke, 3 to 5 times each way, sometimes more. Often it's wolf whistles, whatever that is, wolf whistles, right? Wolf whistles or kissy noises. More commonly, it is descriptions of what they plan to do to me or just crude and vulgar remarks. it has the intended effect. It lets me know that men control public spaces and that I am unwelcome there. It reminds me over and over and over again of my vulnerability to rape. I'm 27. I've saved up a whole bunch of money and I'm going to go traveling the world by myself. I think before I go. So I'm taking my first self-defense class, but this class is changing my life. About 25 other women and I, we meet 8 times in the fellowship hall of an old Unitarian church. Each time I come back, my voice gets louder. My boundaries get stronger. My hits get harder and faster. My hits get harder and faster. At this point, I understand that if need be, I have a really, really good chance of fighting off a rapist. I am learning, I discover that I can resist. Now I'm 67. 56 years from that first harassment, 40 years from that first empowerment self-defense class. I have made it my life's work to share these skills with others, to make sure that what happened to me at 11 doesn't happen to anyone of any age again. My name is Lauren Taylor. I'm a writer. I've co-authored a book called Get Empowered, a practical guide to thrive, heal, and embrace your confidence in a sexist world. It is a for women allies. Heal from is a roadmap for LGBTQI+ people and women and our allies to heal from some of the damage that patriarchy has done to us. To embrace our confidence, to take up more space, to quiet the inner critic, to be able to say no more comfortably, to be able to ask for what we want. Despite the stories I shared with you earlier, most boundary violations are not in public spaces. Most boundary violations are not by people we don't know. Think about, what about the coworker who takes credit for your ideas and who always keeps a hand on you when the two of you are in conversation? What about the doctor who minimizes or dismisses your concerns because you're a woman, because you're a Black woman, because you're a trans woman, because you're a fat woman, or all of those? What about the handsy relative who you have to be at a gathering? The truth of the matter is the vast majority of gender-based violence, despite what we've been taught to be afraid of, the vast majority of gender-based violence is by someone that we know. Look at the 2 most common kinds. Abuse in a relationship. Obviously, that's 100% someone that we know. And sexual assault, the other most common kind, 90% of the time it's someone that you know. Let me say that again. 9 out of 10 times, if you are sexually assaulted, you will know the assailant. So it's not about the dark alleys. It's not about the parking lots. It's not about the bushes. It's about noticing how the people in your life treat you, and how you feel when you're around them. I'd like to share with you okay, I have to go backwards. You're all cool with that, right? So besides writing a book, I also lead this organization called Defend Yourself. And we teach people, my team and I have reached some 40,000 people over the years. We teach skills for preventing, interrupting, and healing from abuse, assault, and harassment. Hugs for 11-year-old me. I do my part to make sure that what happened to me at 11 never happens to anyone of any age again. I would like to share with you some of the exercises that we teach our Defend Yourself students. The first one is practicing the often dreaded and difficult no. In this exercise, I or you can only say no. No excuses, no apologies, no explanations, nothing but the word no. I am going to invite my coach, Emily, up to demonstrate with me.
Can I copy your homework?
No.
Can I touch your hair?
No.
Can I leave my kids with you while I run to the store?
This is a hard one because I know she's in a jam. I'm just going to take a deep breath and say, no.
Will you have sex with me?
No.
Will you save my seat?
No.
Will you cover my shift?
Another hard one, right? I'm just really, everything in my core wants to say, sorry, I can't. Again, I'm going to take a deep breath and come back and say, no. Thank you, Emily. So I invite you to do that with a trusted person in your life. See whether you feel the impulse to say yes, to give an or an apology, or help them find up. To see what comes up, say no, which we have the right to do. For the next exercise, those of you whose this is comfortable for your body, to stand up and get into an assertive stance with me. Not yet. Still not yet. Okay? This means my feet are stable on the ground. I've got my hands up in like a universal stop position. It's going to be call and response. I'm going to say something, and all I ask is for you to echo me back. If standing doesn't work for your body, please stay seated and do whatever kind of assertive body language works for your body. Okay? Now, if you'd like to stand, please stand. Before we start, let's take a deep breath in, a slow breath out. I'm going to say something. I ask you to echo me back. No hugs today.
No hugs today.
Get off the bed.
Get off the bed.
I'm not okay having sex until we're both tested.
I'm not okay having sex until we're
Take your hand
off me.
I don't want to see you anymore. Away. Get away.
Get away.
No.
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 Beautiful work. Shake it out. Shake it out. Breathe. Stomp if you want to. So you might get the idea from all the stuff I've been saying that I am all about the no. But that is not true. Every no is a yes to something else, often to yourself. So I'm going to invite you to participate in an exercise. Again, don't do anything until I tell you to. I'm going to invite you to participate in an exercise. I want you to think about what are your bottom lines in a relationship, right? It could be a sexual or romantic partner. It could be a parent-child, any other close family member, maybe somebody at work, maybe a close friend, right? And I'm going to give you a few seconds to think, what are your bottom lines? Some bottom lines are very simple, straightforward, and widely shared. Like, for example, no hitting. Other bottom lines can be more complex and maybe personal to you, maybe based in something in your own personal experience or a tension point in a current relationship. So take a few seconds to think of a bottom line or two. And now I want you to take one of your bottom lines and put it into a sentence that starts, I want you to. The most effective requests are measurable. So, for example, if you want to ask someone to respect you, think about what behaviors would show respect for you. It might be, I want you to show up on time when you say you will. It might be, I want you to let me finish talking without interrupting me. So take one of your bottom lines and turn it into a sentence with, I want you to. And now, again, not until I say, I'm going to invite you to find someone near you in the room. You will turn to them. You will say, I want you to, in your whole I want you to sentence. And then the other person will simply nod and say, thank you. And then you switch roles. Okay? So you're going to say what you want. The other person is going to nod and say, thank you. And then you switch roles. And then I'll call your attention back. Okay? Go forth. Okay, and wrap up, wrap up, wrap up. Okay, thank you. Attention up here. So, at the end of the day, we still live in a sexist, racist, classist society that hate. In the end of the day, we still live in a sexist, racist, classist, ableist society that hates LGBTQIA+ people, immigrants, religious minorities, and fat people. I wish I could say we had come further, but we still have a serial rapist for president again, right? Any one of those alone would be bad. Would be extremely bad, would be horrible. But I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that it is a serial rapist who is the president again. Still, there are things you can do. You can ask for what you want. You can set boundaries. That will help you in your own life and in the world. Heal from some of the damage that patriarchy and rape culture have done to all of us. And if enough of us do this, and if we all come together, we can make real change in these systems of oppression. We can make real change in these systems of oppression. I invite you to join me.
Elevated percolation! So an opportunity to write some gold. What were the moments that really resonated for you, that struck you in her sharing? Okay, so I want to acknowledge quickly that we had some technical challenges with the Wi-Fi in the space, which means our virtual audience is now joining us. So hello, virtual audience. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce you to our third speaker in Act 1. We're going to take a quick intermission after this is over. And our speaker is Dominic Longo! Ma! I have plenty more of those to share later, but we're going to continue with our program. Dominic Longo! Ma! Now do you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow? It's 1989, a Friday night. We're in Dave Casher's finished basement in a West Omaha suburban house. His parents upstairs. We're 5 teenagers lined up. Don Friend and Pat Powers. They're teaching us all these hilarious gestures and facial expressions to go along with Don McLean's classic song, American Pie. That moment, the boys were, know it at the time, point me from languishing. Uncle Chuck, about Creighton Prep and the great friends he made in those days. And here I am, a real teenager at a real high school party. Well, it's just kind of a gathering. Cool. We're eating Doritos. That's American Pie. And he and Don start doing all these serious gestures to go along with the lyrics. We are cracking up and soon learning all the moves to dance along with them. I never expected basement. I'm just a, they're seniors. Nick Longo. It was a big deal to be there. Behind the ready smile, I was actually full of sadness and even shame. Not because I'm gay. I actually had no idea I would become a gay man at that point. It was family stuff. Feelings. It made me different from everyone else in ways I feared no one would ever understand, least of all peers. Those upperclassmen from my all-boys Jesuit high school, they gave direction to my adolescence. They showed me what kind of man I wished to become. Kind and generous, fun and playful, warm and welcoming, smart and studious, and even willing and able to talk about the hard stuff. Sex, religion, relationships. Boys graduated. I'm starting. To those of, I was experiencing great. And ever since then, fostering flourishing, first for myself and then for others, has been at the center of my life. I believe we are all made to flourish. No matter how beautiful, how strong, how fast, no matter your age, your nationality, race, democratic system of government, country, no matter bombs to your, in all cases, flourishing is your birthright. You were made to flourish. I'm Dominic Longo, professional homosexual. That's right, my company is Flourishing Gays, G-A-Y-S. We bring queer perspectives to leadership development and coaching. To promote human flourishing, I help people to learn and grow and change, because that is what we need to become fully alive, which is how I understand flourishing. Flourishing is the aliveness made possible by love and truth. That's a big one, right? Flourishing is the aliveness made possible by love and truth. In January of this year, 2025, I published a book, Queer Flourishing. A few days later, a certain socialite, he used to be on reality TV, was inaugurated President of the United States. Within days, the US government was taking steps to do harm to some of the most vulnerable people in the world, including trans people. The US government has begun taking measures to try to erase trans people entirely, even from the history of the Stonewall Uprising, where they were among the central protagonists. It's a strange time to be insisting on the value of queer anything. And I'm not only affirming the intrinsic value of queer lives, I'm doing something even more queer, even stranger than that. I am asserting that we are all made to flourish. The book is a guide to personal growth. First of all, for LGBTQ adults, it's structured around 10 queer superpowers. In the story I told, you saw 2 of them. The first, Pride Tribe. This is a social group that helps us to cultivate our atypical gifts. So by initiating me into those moves and bringing me into their group, they helped show me who I wanted to become. Number 2, the best little boy. Thanks to those boys and what they showed me, I saw a way to try to earn my way out of shame. That's what the best little boy is all about. Meeting and surpassing social standards and expectations to earn our way out of shame. The third superpower I want to tell you about tonight, well, you've probably already met her. She's called the Queen. To bring her into this space even more, allow me to be the best little boy who I was all school. I established a vision for the life I wanted, a realm that I could rule. It was a great feat of self-governance, self-possession. And I retained access to vital powers of feminine archetypes: caring, compassion, stillness. I was a straight queen, mind you. One of the best things about my college years that most expanded me and my world was my girlfriend. Loving her, knowing her, I learned so much about who I was and wanted to be. You've now heard a lot of the features of my journey into adulthood. From a psychological standpoint, adulthood begins when we become the primary authority of our own lives. That's not the end. So even when that happens, to the extent we remain alive, we're still learning and growing and changing. Flourishing does not stand still. For some adults, that process leads to an entirely new second adolescence. For LGBTQ folks, this is commonly mixed up or catalyzed by our coming out. Sometimes a messy experience. In fact, second adolescence is so important to so many queer developmental journeys that it is a fourth of the 10 queer superpowers in my book. Peace of the Lord be with you. Oh, sweet Jesus, that boy is hot. He is blonde, muscly, a twinkle in his eye. He's kind of like a leprechaun mixed with a Czech porn star. Clasping his sweaty palm across the pew a few minutes before pure thoughts come appropriate. Like Zamalek, this island in the middle of the Nile River in the modern megacity that is Cairo, this is the last place where anyone in the spring of 1999 ever would expect to meet his first boyfriend. Well, we weren't really actually ever comfortable using that word. I was 24, and that drop-dead gorgeous U.S. Marine, a year younger. Neither of us had ever had a boyfriend. I'd had the same girlfriend all through college. And Tom, well, I'm not sure he had dated anyone before, but within a few weeks after meeting each other at church, we fell headlong into loving one another. Tom open. I'd come to Egypt to volunteer at the Creighton Prep of Cairo, Le Collège de la Sainte Famille, an all-boys Jesuit French immersion high school. For me, as a French major, and valedictorian, by the way, college, this seemed like the perfect best to keep learning and growing and changing. However, until then had defined me. Not my parents' divorce or the other, not even of our father. No. Made me so queer, so different from everyone else. So, using the gifts of the best little boy and the queen, I had been assiduously studying the Arabic language for a year and a half before meeting Tom, mostly recovered from the narcissistic injury of showing up somewhere where I was not intelligent. I couldn't understand a word anyone said. In fact, I couldn't decipher the alphabet or even the numerals. I was doing my darndest, though, nonetheless, to keep things under control and to keep together that adult version of myself that I had been constructing all through college. Tom doomed that effort. Like Humpty Dumpty, I fell from a high place and shattered apart completely. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Despite the extraordinary experience of love that I was in the midst of, I left Egypt on schedule back to alma mater, Boston College, for a master's degree. 2 years of that very rich cultural experience in Egypt was all I could handle. I needed to digest. I knew that I needed a safe and comfortable place to integrate all that I had been exposed to. What I didn't know is that after the painful disintegration of that adult version of myself, I was going to have to put together an entirely new version of me. I needed a second adolescence. But instead of facing head-on those issues, the shattering experience of falling in love with another young man, I went into academic overdrive. The best little boy, he gave it one more college try, 5 graduate courses a semester, auditing 5 more on top of that. The ship could not keep the course. There were like alarm systems going off inside me. Emergency, emergency, the ship is sinking. It became the most I did things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to express your feelings and ask for help, right? Well, I did that. But the distress, the turmoil just continued. It was like being a teenager, you know, those mood swings with the raging hormones. But I was 25. Until one day, I found myself in the office of Father Joe Appleyard, my former professor, this erudite, astute, and very cerebral Jesuit priest. He wouldn't have been my first choice to go to with troubling feelings, especially connected to my sexuality. But Joe was my friend, and my distress was mounting. With characteristic humility and restraint, Joe listened intently. And then, Nick, there have been some times in my life where I have experienced very difficult feelings like what you seem to be right now. And I went to a psychologist, and it really helped. Can I call the counseling center and get you an appointment right now? Yes, Father. Half an hour later, to earn his way out of the shame, I put Humpty Dumpty together and started an entirely new version of myself, integrating all that I had ever been through, including Egypt and Tom. This new version of myself, well, he found his way back to flourishing in Omaha, just like the teenage version had. But now, I was a flourishing gay. This was the beginning of my queer flourishing. I boomeranged home to Omaha, living with my mother, my stepfather, and finding a psychotherapist there who I saw twice a week for months to work through the wincing pain of that personal crisis. I had a more controlled coming apart of those old versions of myself, and I started putting together a new, expanded version. All of those previous queer super had some earlier, they began to be newly important to me. In the same law firm my mother had been. He worked in the bank where my in his career. I of internet, inter-party, sexual and romantic. It was sex and the same. For gay, she accompanied the firmer for my or my the queen when her powers are really Galia, little boy, trying to earn my way out. Learning, growing, and changing can entail many things. One of the things that I have learned to be especially useful is to notice these patterns and postures that we took on at some stage of life to handle the challenges of that stage, but then those patterns continue long after their useful life has ended. You've heard quite a bit of my journey with 4 of the queer superpowers: Pride Tribe, the best little boy, the queen, and to conclude, I invite you, even now, to look at yourself and your life and your patterns and postures, especially those that you might say, that's intrinsic, unchangeable. That's just who I am. This is a sign that some of your perhaps superpowers are actually overpowering you. This is the work of flourishing. It's the work I do and which I now call you to do. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. So a moment to write your gold on the sheet, please. And I know it is very, very warm in this room. So we're going to open those doors and crank up that air conditioning. And then as we're finishing writing up our gold, I just want to introduce you briefly.
Hi, how's it going? What we get to see. Thank you so much for being here. We're about to take this intermission, but before we do, I know that when I'm watching a show like this, I might be sitting out there going like, what would I be saying if I were up there? And you may be thinking about that online as well. We're going to do an interest call for our next Fearless Fire program. We only do 2 of these a year. That's going to take place on Tuesday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll put a link in the chat for those of you online. Find me in the room if that's of interest to you at the break. That's all I got to say for right now. Keep an eye out for that link Tuesday.
I have my mic.
You have your mic. Goodbye.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick 10-minute intermission. There's some more food and wine. We're going to open those doors, get some fresh air, and we can't wait to share the next 3 speeches.
me energy. Things like dancing, spending time with friends and family, reading a book in the park. Interestingly, the next day I went back to my computer and started crunching numbers again, and the mathed. It farther showed me that it's okay. It's actually more than okay. It's necessary to take a step away. So as we're in different age stages and our energy needs change, what do you need to fuel your energy or joy? And how are you prioritizing that? Next, we have our petals. The petals are the expression of the current stage we are in. And like petals in bloom, the age stage that we are in is here today and gone tomorrow. We think of spring, the lilies, they blossom in their fullness. One of the beauties of it is that it's fleeting. Similarly to our lives, our own seasons has its own kind of beauty that we can grow an appreciation for. In college, I played Division II college basketball. So that meant early morning workouts, two-a-day practices, lots of competition. Now in my late 30s, those days are way behind me. But what remains is my love for fitness and community. So today I run marathons, something I never thought I could or would do. This is how I bloom in this season. So how do we become the beholder of the beauty of our own aging and bloom in the seasons that we are in right now? Instead of choosing to compare ourselves to others or cling to a previous version of ourselves, how can we learn to honor the current stages that we are in? I invite you to choose acceptance over alteration, presence over pressure, and meaning over measurement. The beautiful thing about a lily is not how long it blooms, but that it blooms at all. So finally, we have the seeds. Oh, the seeds. That's what creates the stories that shapes how others see themselves. Right now, we have a shortage of good seeds. I want to plant better seeds. That's why I'm creating the We Age Project. That's a resource for folks across all age generations, from baby boom to Gen Alpha, to support how we live across age spans, the lifespan. So it's a space for people to share real stories, reflect on their own, ask questions without being afraid, and bridge gaps across generations with a hope to create a new normal for how we age. But first, to get to that new normal and change the world around us, we have to shift how we see ourselves. And that's to recognize, to accept, and to celebrate that we all be aging.
Let we all be aging. So a moment to write your gold. And as we are adding our final thoughts here of some gold to share for Jasmine, an opportunity to shift in our seats a little bit. Yes, and imagine a little palate cleanser. We're moving on to another topic. So imagining maybe a little mango sorbet. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Mango, tropical, love it. Okay, with that, my friends, it is my privilege to introduce our next speaker, Deanna Jones! Thank you. Ma! It was a beautiful, warm spring day. The sun was shining, much like today in New York City. But where I was, I wouldn't get to enjoy it. I was stuck inside a conference room with the harsh fluorescent lights beaming down on me. We had been called into an emergency meeting with the vice president. He was not happy about something. The sun shining in the conference windows and the harsh fluorescent lights above me made me just want to shut my eyes and think of somewhere else I could be. The macro analysis must be prioritized, he says over the screen in a clipped, angry tone. The macro analysis was this complex Excel spreadsheet that most of us didn't even know how to do. I'm convinced that the people who did know how to do it had some graduate degree in Excel. Not me. We were also trying to express to the VP that the salespeople we work with don't want us doing this. They want us talking to customers. But he wasn't there for a conversation. He was there for a compliance. You need to do this because it's going to be part of your performance review. Ah, there it is. The stick. And where the stick is, usually, hopefully, there's a carrot to follow. He senses we're waiting for that, and he says, there's a $100 gift card if you can do 10 of these by the end of the week. A gift card? You mean those things I get in my birthday cards that I lose 90% of the time? I've just been gift carded. Let me explain something to you in corporate America. When somebody offers you a cash bonus that's outside of your salary for doing something, they know that nobody wants to do it. It's like when you were younger and you had a dog or a cat. Your parents didn't want to pick up the poop or scrape the litter box. So what did they do? They gave you an allowance. It's the same principle, just on a corporate level. Somebody starts to speak, and he cuts them off. And then he says, if you don't like it, you can leave. silence. I can tell you there was not so much silence out in the parking lot after the meeting. But at that moment, all the energy in the room just drained and went out. And I thought about it. And something felt different that day. I had been in conference rooms like this thousands of times before. And I would promise fealty, surrender. But this time, it felt different to me. I'm 23 years old. I am petrified because I have just spent 5 years in college. No, I didn't get a graduate degree. I got a bachelor's in procrastination. But I have my first job interview, and I'm so nervous, I think I'm going to have a nosebleed. What's making me so nervous is this question or this comment I hear they're saying to the interviewees. Tell me about yourself. I'm only 23. I don't know anything about myself. Let me tell you, though, I have some ideas about myself. I don't say anything. I walk. I'm sitting down in a chair that's suspiciously lower than his chair. He starts the meeting, the interview, and he says to me, I'm looking for a killer. I'm looking for someone who will break the china. I'm looking for someone who's been on a sports team and maybe has been a coach. I'm looking for someone who's going to take the bull by the horns. Yikes! How do I tell him that I don't identify with any of that? There's a part of me, of course, that really wants a nice fat wad of cash at the end of every month because mama and daddy aren't supporting me anymore and I need that. But I want to be seen. I want to be able to tell the truth. So I have a decision to make. Who of us in here has ever made the best decision in an interview when you feel so much pressure? So I lie. Yeah, I'm a killer. I'm a go-getter. I played on a sports team. I was in football. I was a line end. I can take those horns bulls and what am I supposed to do with the horns bulls again? And before I know it, I'm sharing a history that's not even mine. And I just keep spinning and spinning. And he starts to see that. And then he tells me his first lie, we'll call you. He didn't, of course. But I just had my first workplace interaction. And I made it completely meaningless. It had no value because I felt like he wanted to see me in one way that I wasn't. I wasn't seen that way. Eventually, I figure out how to play the game. Back then, you went to a bookstore and you brought a book on interviewing. So I figure out how to run the script. I get a job at a nice tech company. And I think, okay, now I can blossom and grow. I'm in a one-on-one meeting with my manager. And he looks at me and he says, Deanna, what do you want to do in this company? And I think, really? I can decide that? I had no idea. Well, I've always wanted to teach and educate other people. It's just been a passion of mine and it lights me up. And I'm thinking, he's going to start connecting me to people. But what he does is he gets on the online directory and he looks under the heading of training. And then he starts giving me a list of names and says, you could email them, you could email them. It's like telling him, I want to work in a bank. And he Googles banks and says, oh, Wells Fargo, you should call them. I felt like I wasn't really supported in that moment because I have shared with him what I'd love to do. And when an employee shares that, both the company and the employee can win. But I was getting the vibes of just stay in your lane. That was the message I got. A few years later, I'm asked to copy my manager's goals and paste them into mine. And he copied his manager's goals and copied them. So you can see the domino effect. And by the way, Control V, Control C, I had that down. I didn't feel like there was any room to put what I wanted my goals to be. It was just copy and paste. Where was the individuality? Where was the chance to show him what I would have strengths in? I learned to copy and paste. One year, though, I decide I'm going all out. I am going to volunteer for everything I can. Yes, I'll be that employee. I agree to be the team lead. I lead the sales call. I work my butt off. And it comes time for performance review. And I got the equivalent of a B-. I was so angry. I started just pressuring the manager. It's never a good idea. I'm like, you tell me what it would have taken for me to get an A. And he can't tell me. He can give me a lot of corporate jargon, like, well, the synergies of the team and the recalibration, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't hear any of it because I found out that the person that got an A was really one of his best friends. And it wasn't about my performance. It was about being sorted. It was about being ranked on a bell curve. I felt so diminished. If you don't like it, you can leave. I snapped. It was different, as I said. This time, I left. I'd like to say I stood up and marched out of the conference room. See, that makes for a great story. But the wheels of freedom are turning in my head. And I did leave a couple of months later because I couldn't stay in a place where I was unseen, unsupported, and diminished. It was costing me more than I had to give. So I left. Not long after, I go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. I had never been to this Chamber of Commerce meeting before. And I'm getting a little nervous because the person that was supposed to meet me there has not arrived. And I'm thinking, I should leave. I'll give myself 5 minutes. 2 minutes later, I think, okay, I'm walking out the door. And this man comes up to me and he asks me the same question that the interviewer did. Tell me about yourself. This time, I didn't lie. I'm transgender. I just transitioned not that long ago. I lost my wife. I lost my kids. I was kicked out of the house. I was living in an apartment alone. And there were no kids to come running in and jump on the bed and say, "Pancakes, Daddy." My sisters called me and said, "We miss our brother." I talked about COVID and divorce and everything that was about me. And then I did the same for him. In that conversation, I felt so much value. I felt like I mattered. I didn't realize it until later, but that was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Today, I'm the president of that chamber. It's the Harmony LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I do the same thing for the guest. A few years later, somebody comes up to me and says, "You need to tell your story." "Oh, sure, I'll tell you my story." No, not to me. "I need you to go to the Monty." The Monty is a storytelling group, much like the Moth. "But I'll be telling my story in front of 220 people. Again, I'm petrified because I still don't trust myself just yet. But I get up there. Everything disappears. The audience, the lights. I just pour out my story. All the pain, all the glory that I had been through, that we all go through. And when I finished, I got a standing ovation. And people came up to me afterwards and they said, "Deanna, that was amazing. Listening to your story made me understand so much. I didn't realize." Or, "Deanna, that story mattered to me." Or, "I identified with that story." And in that moment, I felt lifted up. I felt strengthened. It was a wonderful feeling. I'm on a roll now. Lately, I've become a real conference junkie. There's some people in here who know this because I've seen them at conferences. Since I transitioned, I can't get in front of enough people. I'm at an industry conference, and there's a very smart consultant who is giving a presentation. She's wearing a sharp suit, and she's talking about the trends in the workplace as if they're established fact, talking about the culture. And she says, "So the culture is now returning to the office. And also, the culture is we're moving away from DEI. And I'm thinking, don't you ask for questions. But I guess she couldn't hear me. Because she did say, "Are there any questions?" Something that I would have never done, I did. I stood up and I decided to speak the truth. First of all, nobody wants to return to the office 8 hours a day with their butts in a chair when you haven't given them a good reason to. 73% of people will either take a pay cut or quit if you require them to come into the office. So the office culture, that's what we call executive nostalgia. Oh, we had to do it. And to me, that's like holding up an iPod that holds 20 songs and saying, "Look how great this is." No, we don't think it's great. And that is across the generations. A hybrid model works the best. And she's kind of nodding her head. I'm not finished yet. What you said about diversity, diversity is still top of mind for 80% of Gen Z and young millennials who are coming in your office to get a job. They want to know how diverse your company is. They want to know if you have ERGs, employee resource groups. That's what they're looking for. And in 5 years, 75% of the working population will be Gen Z and millennials. We're also going to experience 2 generations retiring. Don't you want to be able to attract those people? And in her polite North Carolina way, she says, thank you. I'm looking around to see if security's coming up anywhere. I had so many people come up to me and say, I love what you spoke about. And I thought, wait a minute, I wasn't the speaker. I know, because I've gotten paid nothing. And they stopped me and they said, no, 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 the question you asked, you spoke the truth of what I was thinking. I had 5 or 6 people tell me that. I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say anything. And I felt strengthened by that. The fact that I could name the unnamed, that I could stand up, I was strengthened. I wasn't diminished. I'm Deanna Jones, a keynote speaker, and I am on a mission to create spaces where people can feel seen, supported, and strengthened. Because when that happens, your people will believe in you. They will contribute. They will grow. And when your vision for your organization or your company aligns with theirs, magical things can happen. Every day, in ways big and small, we are creating the space around us. Is it a space where people will shrink, or is it a space where people will grow? Thank you.
Stay up there.
Oh, stay up here.
Yes! Mwah, brava! So an opportunity to write your goals, for Miss Deanna Jones. Okay, and now we have our final speaker of the evening. So let us do a little shimmy in our chairs, get ourselves ready. It is my privilege to introduce Joseph Nyamwange!
Ma! It's May 25th, 2020. We are now in the middle of Q4, the most consequential quarter in company history. It's not just the consequential quarter for company, but it's also an added pressure for sellers. And my pressure is a little bit different because I have to wrestle with what Trevor Noah calls the black tax. That means I have to be better than them. I have to sound better than them. I have to impact the line better than them. And this afternoon, I get a text in my group chat, and the subject line says, unarmed black man killed by officer. You have to understand, I've seen this many times. And I opened that, clicked the link, and the length of the link was 9 minutes and 29 seconds. For 9 minutes, I saw the knee of an officer on the neck of an innocent black man. He had his hands tied behind him, and people just watched as he screamed and tried to say, "I can't breathe," for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. I've seen innocent black people murdered before, but this one, it hit me different because I felt George Floyd. In that moment, I was George Floyd. Because 14 years prior to this, I have had the knee of corporate America on my neck. And it suffocated me professionally, it suffocated me financially, and it suffocated me mentally. Here's how it choked me professionally. I remember this year I was ranked the #1 rep in the nation, sitting at 400% of my number. I actually hit my number in Q2, so it was just gravy training from there on. I won the Changemaker Award. I've done all these incredible things. And I remember submitting my name for promotion that I now could become an executive director. My colleague, white male, did the same. He wasn't nearly as good as I was performing, but we will exchange conversation like, this is going to be the year we get promoted. And we have Q4 reviews, and he goes in to the manager's office, and he comes out excited. He said, "Joe, guess what? I got promoted." And I get called in. Now, my chest is high. I'm confident. I mean, when you have 400% of your number, like this, I'm winning right now. And I go in with this level of excitement, but I look at his face, and he has a different demeanor. And he says, "Joe, have a seat." And then he says, "Joe, you had a great year, but you lack executive presence. Try again next year." Choking. And that has showed up financially. Because, what does executive presence really look like? And so I had to make some wholesome changes. So the first thing is I ditched my 96 Honda Accord. And I said, I'm going to have to get me a new car. And so I get a ride to the dealership. Now, you'll be surprised what a dealer would give somebody with a little bit of money and a decent credit score. And I go to the dealer, and I said, "Mr. Dealer, look, I want to look like an executive director. What kind of car do I have to have?" And he says, "Oh, I got something really nice for you." And there she was. Black convertible, Camaro, interior leather, V8 engine, black rims. He says, "This is what an executive director looks like." So I give me the paperwork. He said, "I got even some good news for you, Joseph. You don't have to put no money down today." I said, "This is great." Signed the dotted line, not realizing it was 26% in interest that I was signing. Executive presence. So I said, "Oh, okay. Well, if I have the car, you have to have also the shoes." So I got the Tom Ford shoes, and you can't just have the shoes, you got to have the suit. So I got the Tom James suit. And you can't just look the part with the nice car, you got to get into rooms that they're in. And so you have to fly to the places that they're flying to and eat the steakhouses that they're eating in. And I started to consume and consume and consume until I found myself $100,000 in consumer debt. Choking financially. And eventually that started to play a role on my mental, my psyche, and the way I viewed myself. So I go into the office with my Tom Ford shoes and my Tom James suit, and I feel like I look like an executive. I have the car like an executive, and I walk, but I can't help people start to whisper and start to laugh. And are they laughing at me? And then the area vice president comes out and says, "Joseph, tonight is the black tie event. But I need to ask you, Joseph, do you even know what a black tie event is?" And everybody starts laughing. I felt so small in that moment. So yes, on May 25th, 2020, when I watched the link of George Floyd, I was choking. in the most vulnerable state, I did something you never do in sales. I called my boss's boss direct. And I picked up the phone and I told him, I am not okay. And his response was, well, Joe, sorry you're not okay, but I got an idea for you. Why don't you lead the DEI initiative? Now, I'm not going to lie. I thought something was different when George Floyd died. Like, the world was changed. Maybe this country was going to deal with the sins of its past. Maybe we're going to reckon with the challenges that we've had. And so I led DEI initiatives. And after 2 years, I discovered that it was just marketing. That if I was going to actually finally breathe and stop choking, I was going to have to divorce myself from corporate America. And I left. And I went on this pathway to try to find out, what does it really mean to be free? What does it really mean to breathe professionally, financially, and personally, mentally? What does it mean to be free? And when I think of professionally, this was tough for me because my entire corporate career, my entire professional career has been in corporate. I know nothing else. And I did something that honestly I have never really done before. I actually sat down in silence and listened to my thoughts. I'd wake up 6 o'clock in the morning in my sunroom as I'm sitting on 4 acres of land with a backdrop of the woods in silence. And I discovered that I had to unlearn and relearn what it really means to win professionally. And I read books like Long Walk to Freedom from Nelson Mandela, the autobiography of Malcolm X, the autobiography of Gandhi. I read the Gospels of Jesus Christ. And I'm starting to read, and there was a common thread across the board, is that if you wanted to win professionally, you have to learn to serve others. If you want to be first, you must be last. That the true winning of profession is not in how many people report to you. It's not in titles. It's an understanding at the core, at its most core part, is that we are here to serve others. And in one of the mornings, as I'm getting this light bulb moment, my 4-year-old daughter comes to me. She sits on my lap and she says, Daddy, what are you doing? I said, Daddy's learning. She said, you still learn? You're not too old to learn? And I said, yes, baby, we still learn. We will forever learn. But I looked in her eyes and I did something that was different. I told her, Nia, you can be whatever you want to be. And for the first time, I actually meant it, because I've told my kids you could be what you want to be, but in the back of my mind, I thought engineer, I thought technologist, no arts, nothing, something that's going to pay a job. But this time, I genuinely meant it. Freedom. Now, me and my wife had to realize that, look, if we're going to be free financially, we need to make some wholesome changes. That $100,000 in debt is a lot. And the first thing we realized we had to do was we had to assess where we were. And so we went old school. Budget form, we listed all our incomes, and we listed all our expenses. And then we called out all the credit cards. The Chase Sapphire, that's where I funded my shoes. It was the Inks, that's where I did my suits. And all the travel points that I was convinced to sign up for. And we would list them all one by one. And we'll focus on the one with the highest interest. We'll knock it down and we celebrate it. And the second one, we knocked it down and we celebrated. And we kept doing it till eventually we became debt-free. $100,000 gone. And it's at that moment I realized that we started and stopped funding our insecurities and we began to fund our values. We started putting money in things that were important to us. We built organizations to help young black kids who struggle with the same things I struggle with, to help them know that they are enough. We invested in giving scholarships to black kids so that we can improve the education for our people. Yeah. And once we started to defund our insecurities and fund our values, something happened between my wife. We finally started to dream again. That organization that we had started to grow and we started doing things we never thought were possible, to the point where now we actually opened up a college in our ancestral land called Nimwange Technical College that is giving young kids in the village an opportunity to get a degree in education in things like electrical engineering and plumbing so that they could get jobs. So now, here I am in western part of Kenya, in Kisii, and it's a sunny, beautiful day. And the whole community came out as we are cutting the ribbon and opening up this college, and you could see the governor's there and the member of parliament's there. And I look to my left, I see Nia and my son Wilson and my daughter Jade and my wife. And then to the right, I see my mom, and she says, "Son, I'm so proud of you." And you hear the crowd saying, "Nyamwange, Nyamwange." At that moment, I realized that there is a genius inside of me. That regardless of what corporate America says or the white manager says, regardless of what happened, I started to discover that I am enough. And that I'm beautifully and wonderfully created. Freedom. And so now today, that organization that I talked about, I have the privilege to serve as the executive director and founder of the Nyamwange Foundation, an organization that is not only giving education opportunities to young black kids, but we are helping young black kids reimagine what's possible for them. We're giving them a new introduction to their history to tell them that they were not and are not come from just a history of blood of slaves. We were bigger than that. Our contributions were bigger than that. And we show them that education is not something you just learn, you experience. So we fund taking young black kids to the motherland in Africa so they could see it for themselves. And now they know that our contributions to the world is incredible. That we were people who led in education with the first college system in Timbuktu, that people like Socrates and Plato came to Africa to learn from our people, that there is something rich, that we still have pyramids that we built that are still up till this day. That's our history. Our kids need to know this. And it's not just young black kids that get to dream again, but I'm helping older black and brown people dream again by teaching them how to better manage their money so that they can defund their insecurities and fund the things that they value. Because now me and my wife are on a mission to build a generation of millionaires operating in purpose. And for anybody outside of me or who's not African American that feels marginalized or you feel like there's a knee on your neck, let me first tell you, you're not alone. I know what it feels like. But more importantly, I want to tell you that you are enough. And I want to be very direct. For the white man who has privilege, speak. Don't cower. Because the people who are marginalized need you to fight. Fight for them as if you're fighting for your daughters. Fight for them as if you're fighting for your sons. Fight for them as if you're fighting for your brothers. Because if you fight and we fight, then we all can breathe. Thank
you. Yay! We're going to have you stay here. If we can please have all our speakers please come to the stage. Woo! Yes, write the goal for Joseph, write the goal for Joseph, write the goal for Joseph. The gold, yes. The gold for your husband, honey. Write the gold for your husband. Don't forget the gold for your husband. Yes. It does not have 26% interest. Yeah. Okay, so as we are finishing up the gold for Joseph, there is a culminating kind of acknowledgement that we do. It's one of our core values at Fearless Communicators. And it's an opportunity for the audience to share and impart just an acknowledgement on what it meant for a lesson, what really resonated from them, something that gave them profound meaning in the sharing of the speaker. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in the order of the speaker, the speakers that we witness, and then one person on behalf of the audience will approach this microphone fearlessly and offer their acknowledgement to that speaker. So the acknowledgement, again, is not just like, great job, right? But thinking in terms of like what really resonated for you, what brought deep meaning what was a lesson that you will take with you? This is the 31st time that we've done this program all over the world. In New York, in San Francisco, in Tel Aviv. We did it in Brisbane, and Sydney, and Melbourne, Australia. We did it in the Hudson Valley. We did it over the pandemic on Zoom. And initially, the program started working with women, trans feminine, and assigned female at birth non-binary humans. And then we've expanded that to a gender-expansive program. And it's a blessing to share the stage with these extraordinary speakers and storytellers. Okay, so we're going to start with Allie. Who would like to acknowledge Allie? And it could totally be the mom. It's always really awkward with the first person. We just acknowledge it's always very awkward.
I've been the first person all week. It's all alphabetical, I'm sure.
Hi, Ali. I'm Ricky. I loved how the story of Disney created a structure for your story, and that your story helped us all see ourselves in how we learn and how we can learn even better. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay! Our second speaker is Lauren. Who would like to acknowledge Lauren? Please, step forward. Yeah, but come to the microphone. Yeah, yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. This is not an either or. It's a yes and. It's a yes and. Yeah.
First of all, I have to say, I could totally identify different areas of my life with all of you. I tuned in to you because I've spent, as I mentioned to you, 15 years of my life working with victims of domestic violence, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. And I give you so much credit to be able to get up here and for so much self-disclosure and what you're doing for all of these people with the self-defense. You were fabulous. And your exercises were superb.
Yay! Our next speaker is Dominic Longo. Who would like to acknowledge Dominic? Yeah.
Oh, Dominic, I love you. You know I do. I know this lovely man. Being a woman of a certain age, you know, your story is just so universal of the second chance to decide who we want to be. And it's so much bigger than the queer experience, actually. I think it's so universal. And you made us see in your story, I think all of us probably really resonated. And we always have a chance to do it over and choose differently. And it's just so courageous what you've done. And you're going to help legions of people. You already do, but just understanding that, you know, we can go back and redo and make different choices and live courageously. In a way, that is everything that you all talked about. Aging, so. It's amazing how your talks wove together so beautifully. Not an accident because of you.
Our next speaker is Jasmine. And who would like to acknowledge Jasmine? Oh. Yeah.
As a child of nature, I appreciate the incredible metaphor that you put forth and the energy and the vibrance in your being. Thank you.
Yay. Deanna, who would like to acknowledge Deanna?
been sold off for cattle.
I feel like I'm cheating because I already know you, Deanna. I've known you as a speaker before, but I've never got to witness you actually deliver a talk. And you just seemed so at home up there. And your stories were hilarious. We were all cracking up. And then they just had this wonderful, profound message. And I just feel like you've found your calling and yeah, enjoyed absolutely every minute. So.
And Joseph, who would like to acknowledge Joseph?
Listen, yes. I'm here on behalf of the wife. I think that your story resonated a lot, especially because a lot of us know what it's like to be in corporate America or have jobs and be at the fork road of knowing, should I stay here or should I leave? And so the evolution from I'm struggling here at my job to now I've figured it out and I'm inspiring people was wonderful. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I would like to invite my co-facilitators, Deborah Driscoll and Emily Shane, to the stage, please, for their extraordinary work in supporting our speakers. It has been quite a journey. We want to acknowledge Tony Dolce and the Purple Critter Media team for their video. We want to acknowledge our photographer. Thank you so much for the pictures. MCM Creative in this entire space. Thank you so much, MCM. Thank you much, Ben Peltison on our team. Molly Mermelstein. Thank you so much to those of you that are joining us at home. Thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait until the next time. Till then, have a fearless evening. The great work continues. And as Cory Booker said last night, let's keep getting into good trouble. Thank you so much. And now we're going to do a picture. We're going to do a picture together.